Relax. Mom won't even notice, Drew said, half laughing as he handed the card to the cashier. I was 10 feet away, standing in the next checkout line. I saw the way he leaned on the counter, confident, like he'd done this before. The cashier looked down at the screen. Her face changed. I'm sorry, she said slowly. This card has been reported stolen by the owner. Drew blinked. That can't be right. It's my mom's card. It is, I said, stepping into view. And I'm the mom. His shoulders stiffened. The cocky grin he wore cracked into something stunned and small. He turned toward me, mouth half open. What are you doing here? Watching, I said. The manager approached from the side. He'd been waiting. I'd called ahead. Do you need us to notify the police? Mrs. Morin Drew's voice dropped. Are you serious? I looked him dead in the eye. Dead serious. He started to speak again, then stopped. I could see it. He was trying to charm his way out of it, but it wasn't going to work this time. Not with me. Not anymore. You said you needed groceries, I said. But that's a $900 coat on the counter. Who's that for, Drew? He said nothing. The cashier backed away slightly, sensing something colder than theft. The kind of betrayal that leaves bruises in places no one sees. Mrs. Morin, the manager said again, should we call? I nodded. Drew flinched like I'd struck him. I would have paid it back, he muttered. You have money. You wouldn't have missed it. I did miss it, I said. I missed the part where you stopped being someone I could trust. As the police were called, Drew looked around like there might be a door that could save him. But there wasn't. I didn't move. I didn't say anything else. I just waited there until the officers arrived and he had no choice but to face what came next. It started with $40 missing from my checking account. I thought maybe I'd forgotten a withdrawal or let a bill auto-renew. I brushed it off. Then it happened again, $65, then $110. By the third week, I was writing down every transaction in a notebook. I wasn't losing my memory. The money was disappearing. I asked Drew gently if he'd taken anything by mistake. He laughed, said no, and changed the subject. You're just not used to spending on yourself, Mom. Loosen up. That's what he always said. Loosen up, trust him, don't worry. Drew had always been the kind of son who asked first, then took later anyway. Tools, my car keys, boxes from the garage labeled, "Do not touch." I let it slide. That was the rhythm between us. But money, that wasn't rhythm. That was theft. When the bank flagged a charge for a high-end bottle of whiskey and a video game console, I called them, the woman on the line asked me calmly, "Did you authorize a $469 purchase at Capital Games?" "No," I said. "I don't even know what that is." She paused. "It was done with your card. It matched your signature." I froze, because it wasn't mine. And I knew who it had to be. When Drew came by the next afternoon, I didn't mention it. I made him tea, asked how he was doing, and watched his eyes. He didn't ask for anything that day. Didn't need to. I called the bank from the kitchen notebook, open beside me. The woman on the other end was polite, calm, as if she delivered this kind of news every day. "Yes, Mrs. Morin," she said. "There have been multiple charges over the last month, some online, some in-store. The signature matches yours on file." I didn't argue. I thanked her, hung up, and opened the security feed on my laptop. I'd installed the camera last year after someone siphoned gas from my car. I never thought I'd be using it for this. I clicked through the timestamps. 2 days ago, late morning. There he was, Drew stepping onto the porch, hands in his pockets like he had nowhere to be. He rang the bell, then reached under the mat for the spare key. I hadn't heard the bell that day. I was out running errands. He let himself in. The video showed him walking past the camera into the living room, then circling back a few minutes later, my coat draped over one arm. I paused the footage just as his hand slid into the pocket and came out with my wallet. My stomach didn't drop. My hands didn't tremble. That surprised me. I watched it once more, then closed the laptop. The lie had shape now, a face, a timestamp. I picked up the phone and called the branch manager directly. "It's Lydia Morin," I said. "You can go ahead and mark the card as stolen. Should we deactivate it immediately?" "No," I said. "Don't cancel it yet." He hesitated. "You want to track it?" "I want to catch him." "Understood." I hung up and stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the street below. I had spent months trying to justify the wrongs, trying to soften the sharp edges of what he was doing. But the moment I saw my own son stealing from me on camera, something settled. I wasn't going to wait for him to confess. I was going to make sure he was seen, and this time, not just by me. I left the card on the kitchen counter just beneath the mail, half visible. Not obvious, but not hidden. I knew Drew would see it. He always noticed what he could take. He came by late that afternoon, unannounced, but cheerful. "Hey, Mom," he said, brushing a kiss on my cheek like nothing had changed. "Just checking in." We sat for a while in the living room. I made coffee. Let him talk. He asked how I was feeling, if I needed anything. He hadn't asked that in years. I just nodded and listened. He glanced at the counter once when he got up for a glass of water. I saw his eyes catch on the card. He didn't say a word. "I've got to run in a bit," he said. An hour later. "But I'll come by again tomorrow." I walked him to the door, hugged him, and locked it behind him the moment he stepped off the porch. 17 minutes later, my phone vibrated. Pending charge, $960. 27, Wilford and Ross Department Store. I grabbed my purse keys in the folder with all the printouts, every unauthorized transaction I had recorded, every timestamp, every screenshot. I'd already called the store earlier that week. I had a name, Roger, the floor manager. He said he'd be there if I needed him. I arrived just as Drew was handing the card to the cashier. I didn't go to him. I went straight to the manager's desk. Roger spotted me. "He's here?" I nodded. "He's using the card now." He didn't ask questions. He walked to the front counter, nodded at the cashier, then turned and motioned for me to follow. Drew hadn't seen me yet. He was leaning on the counter, joking about something with the clerk. Too comfortable, too certain of himself. The cashier held the card up, her expression shifting as she read the alert on the screen. Then she looked up, first at him, then past him. Her eyes found mine. "Excuse me, sir," she said slowly. "There's been a report on this card. I need to speak with the owner." This card was reported stolen by the owner. I heard it as I stepped closer. My shoes silent on the tile floor. The cashier's voice was steady, professional, but I saw her eyes flick to me. She knew who I was. Drew turned around, confusion flickering into panic. "That's my mom's card," he said quickly, trying to smile to spin it. "It's fine, she just forgot she gave it to me." I didn't break stride. I reached into my coat, pulled out my wallet, and took out my ID. "I didn't forget," I said, holding it up. And I never gave him permission. The air between us shifted. His face fell. "Mom," he said under his breath, like he still thought I might undo it, like he believed this could still be a misunderstanding instead of what it was. "I'm pressing charges," I told the manager. The cashier lowered her gaze and nodded. Roger had already stepped aside to call security. No one raised their voice. No one needed to. It was quiet, clinical, like filing a form. Drew backed up half a step. Wait. Mom, come on. Don't do this." But I didn't move. 2 officers entered the store minutes later, calm and alert. They asked me to confirm my identity. I did. They asked for the card. The cashier handed it over. Then they turned to Drew. "We need to speak with you, sir," one of them said. "Outside." He looked at me wide-eyed like I'd betrayed him, as if I was the one crossing a line. "You're really doing this?" he asked. I said nothing. They walked him toward the exit. He didn't fight, but he didn't look away either. His eyes stayed on mine like he was searching for something he thought would still be there. Softness, forgiveness, a way out. But I didn't offer any of it. I stayed where I was, wallet in hand, jaw steady. And when the doors closed behind them, I turned and followed the manager to the back office to sign the statement. The police station was colder than I expected. I sat across from a detective with kind eyes and a tape recorder on the table between us. My hands were still folded neatly in my lap. I didn't need notes. I knew every number by memory. "Amount stolen," he asked. 4,870, I said. "Not including the overdraft fees." He nodded, writing. "Over how long?" 2 months, I said. "Maybe a few days more. It started small withdrawals under 100, then larger ones, electronics, liquor, hotels, all from the same account." He glanced at me. "And your relationship to the suspect?" I met his eyes. "He's my son." He stopped writing for a moment as if giving me a chance to take it back. I didn't. They read the report aloud before I signed. The words felt strange: financial exploitation, repeated offenses, evidence provided by parent. I listened to each one carefully. I didn't ask them to change a thing. When it was time to sign, the detective slid the paper toward me. My name looked clean at the bottom, Lydia Morin in careful cursive. I'd written it on field trip slips, permission forms, checks for tuition. Now it sat under a police report. The detective leaned back. "You sure about this, ma'am?" "Once it's filed, it's official." "I'm sure," I said. I raised him to know better. He made his choice. He nodded slowly and pressed the recorder's button to stop. "We'll handle the rest. You'll be notified once charges are processed." I stood, thanked him, and walked out into the afternoon light. The sun hit my face, as if nothing inside had happened, as if life outside went on untouched. Across the street, a police cruiser idled with the engine running. I recognized the figure in the back seat, head bowed, wrists together. For a second, he looked up and saw me. I didn't turn away. Then I walked to my car, opened the door, and drove home to wait for what came next. 2 days later, I heard the knock. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I knew it was him. When I opened the door, Drew stood there looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. No coat, no bags, just his eyes red and his mouth trembling. "Mom," he said, his voice raw. "Please, drop the charges. I'll pay it back. I swear I'll make it right." I let the screen door swing shut behind me and stepped out onto the porch. "You'll pay either way," I said. "One way involves prison. The other involves accountability. Your choice." He shook his head and took a step closer. "You don't understand what I've been dealing with." "I didn't think you thought I wouldn't notice," I interrupted. "You thought I'd stay quiet." He sank to the top step and sat down hard. Then he dropped his head into his hands and started crying. Real crying. The kind that used to crack me in half when he was a boy. But I didn't sit beside him. I didn't reach out. I'd done that enough. I went back inside, came out with a folder, and handed it to him. Inside were the receipts everyone I'd printed, dated, and highlighted. I didn't say a word. I let the paper speak. He flipped through them with shaking hands, eyes scanning the amounts. I could hear him breathing harder, the panic coming up fast. "You kept all of this." "Yes," I said. "I gave you the benefit of the doubt for as long as I could, but this is what you gave back." He looked up at me, lips parted like he wanted to say something. Some excuse, some story that might still work. I turned toward the door. "If your lawyer wants to talk, he knows where to reach me." Then I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. He stayed there for a while. I didn't watch him go. I didn't need to. I sat at the table and opened my planner. The court date was circled in red. The lawyer called 3 days before the arraignment. He spoke plainly. Drew had accepted a plea deal, full restitution, and 6 months of court-ordered counseling in exchange for avoiding jail time. "He's selling the car," the lawyer said. "It covers most of the balance. The rest will come in monthly payments. We've drafted a restitution agreement. I didn't ask for details. I didn't ask how Drew was doing. They couriered the papers to my house. I read every line, every clause. There were no apologies in the document, only dollar amounts, timelines, and conditions. The total was listed in bold, $4,870, paid in full by the vehicle sale. Monthly check-ins through the county office. I signed my name slowly, deliberately, as if the ink carried the weight of every unspoken thing I wasn't going to say out loud. When the second envelope came with the check, I took it to the bank, deposited it, and walked out without saying a word to the teller. That night, I sat at the table with the receipt, the signed agreement, and the note his lawyer had included. Drew asked that I thank you for agreeing to this. There was no letter from him. No call. No knock at the door this time. Just silence. I didn't expect tears. Not from him and not from me. This wasn't about healing. It wasn't even about trust. It was a transaction clean, signed, completed. The counselor he'd been assigned left a message on my machine. She wanted background. I gave her the facts. The rest wasn't her burden to carry. When the payment cleared, I filed the paperwork in the cabinet beside my tax returns. Not under family, not under legal, just under done. Then I turned off the kitchen light and stood by the window for a long time, watching the street where his car used to sit. It wouldn't be parked there anymore. That part at least was over. I closed the curtain and walked upstairs. The hallway felt quieter now, the air lighter. His room stayed shut. After the plea was finalized and the check cleared, I locked Drew's bedroom door and left it that way. There was nothing inside I needed, and nothing I was ready to look at. The house settled differently without him. No doors slamming, no heavy footsteps, no sudden demands. Just quiet. Just mine. I gave it 2 weeks before I opened the door again. Not out of sentiment, but practicality. I needed the space. I boxed up his things one afternoon, methodically. A few worn jackets, old textbooks, tangled cords he never bothered to sort. The trophies stayed in the closet. By sundown, everything was in 3 boxes on the front porch. I left a note taped to the top. Pick up by Friday. The boxes were gone by Thursday evening. No knock, no goodbye. Just absence. The neighbors noticed. One of them asked gently if everything was okay. Another made a point of saying, "He's still your son, though." I nodded, thanked them, and changed the subject. They didn't know what it cost to keep loving someone who kept cashing in that love like it was credit. I slept better. No midnight anxiety, no double-checking my bank app before bed. My wallet stayed where I left it. My mornings were mine again. I started tracking my expenses out of habit, not fear. Paid off a few lingering bills. Walked through the grocery store without thinking twice about what I could afford. Small freedoms. But they added up. There was peace in the quiet. Not joy. Not yet. But peace. The kind that doesn't ask you to explain yourself. Sometimes I passed by his room and felt a flicker memory. Guilt, something quieter than regret. But I never reached for the door. I'd done enough reaching. Instead, I opened the back window, let the autumn air in, and stood by the sill for a long time, listening to nothing. The house didn't feel empty. It felt honest. The final check came in early spring, almost 4 months after the last time I saw him. The envelope was plain, but I recognized the handwriting immediately neater than usual, like he'd tried. Inside was the last of the repayment, a cashier's check in the exact amount we'd agreed on. No extra, no less. Folded beneath it was a piece of lined paper, torn from a spiral notebook. No greeting, no date. Just 5 words written in ink. "I'm sorry, Mom. Drew." I held it for a long moment. Not because I didn't know what to do with it, but because it felt strange to receive something from him that didn't ask for more. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I walked to the filing cabinet, opened the bottom drawer, and slid the note behind the restitution agreement and the original police report. Not as a keepsake, just a record. Then I closed the drawer and locked it. That morning, I brewed a fresh cup of coffee and opened the kitchen window. The air smelled clean. The street was quiet. I sat at the table where months ago I'd tracked every stolen dollar by hand, where I'd questioned myself more times than I could count, where I'd nearly let love rewrite the facts. But now the ledger was clean. My name was on everything that mattered: the house, the account, the peace. I didn't owe him anything, not trust, not space, not silence. He had repaid the debt, and I had reclaimed what mattered more than money. I wasn't waiting for reconciliation. I wasn't hoping for a phone call. What came next, if anything, would be on his terms, not mine. I brought the mug to my lips, took a slow sip, and let the warmth settle in. Then I got up, opened the back door, and stepped outside, not to watch the street, not to listen for footsteps. Just to stand there, alone, whole, unafraid, and finally, enough.